We are live. I'd like to welcome everyone to another episode of Heart to Heart with Bree. Tonight's guest is my dear friend and sister, Karen Holgate Morgan. Please introduce yourself to the viewers, Karen.
All right. Good evening, everyone. For those of us who don't already know us, because I know we have a lot of old friends on here from time to time, my name is
Yes,
Karen Holgate Morgan. I am a graduate of Titchfield High School, just as Bree is. I'm a little older than her because she was a baby when
a
I was
little.
right. And all I want to say about myself is that I'm retired and I'm a student of the Word of God. And we're going to discuss a very deep topic this evening. I hope you'll join us and I hope everyone will learn something from it. And when you leave, you won't be the same as when you joined this evening. Thank you, Bree.
Amen. Amen. And tonight's topic is the apology that you may never receive, part two, forgiveness. And this is really a very important topic. And, Karen, when you did part one, I
Mhm.
think it was very eye opening for a lot of us. Hello, Andrew. Thank you so much for tuning in. And, my hope for tonight is that viewers will walk away with some healing or at least a desire to heal.
Yes. I agree.
So I'll jump right into it. My first question is, how important is it to have a desire for emotional healing and growth?
All right. So, welcome, friends. I see Andrew Green is on and Mikey. Welcome.
Welcome.
Right. So last time I was here, we really got into discussing the apology that was not coming. And I believe we did touch on the matter of healing because the truth is, if we don't heal, we are mostly hurting ourselves, whether it is that we are the victim or we are the offender. So healing is critically important. And I honestly believe that the sure way of healing is through forgiveness. And so we will get into that further. So I'll leave it there for now, Brie.
Yes, yes. And I'll jump right into question number two. What does withholding forgiveness do to those who choose not to forgive?
All right. Now, here is a big question. First of all, it is ungodly and unbiblical. So let us take it from a perspective of the Bible first of all. Jesus himself, in teaching us how to pray, tells us that we should forgive others, or else the Lord will not find it in his heart to forgive us. The Lord's Prayer says, forgive us as we forgive those who trespass against us. So it is required of us for our spiritual life. For forgiveness from God, we have to extend forgiveness to those who we hurt and those who hurt us. So it's both ways. So that I think is critically important. And if we want to delve a little deeper,
Yes.
unforgiveness actually leads many persons into depression, different kinds of mental
I
illness.
was, I would, I was, I'm glad that you addressed that. Please go deeper.
Right, because when we hold a grudge against someone in our hearts, it hurts us more than the other persons in most cases. Because guess what? The person who we are holding this grudge against may not even remember that they had hurt us in some cases. In other cases, they may have hurt us deliberately and they're happy that we are hurting. And in many other cases, we hold these grudges and it affects how our relationships with other persons work. For instance, I'm going to speak about family most of all because I believe that
Yes.
is where it hurts a great deal.
Yes.
Between children and their parents, between husbands and wives. When we hold this grudge, you can no longer have that loving relationship between you and the other party, and that is destructive all around. It leads to
Yes.
divorce, it leads to bitterness and anger. And sometimes, depending on how strong people are, they even take out their bitterness on the other loved ones in their lives. And I
Yes.
have known of instances, and I'm going to share a little story. When I was a teenager, I saw this film. I can't remember the name of it, I don't even remember the plot, but it was concerning a mother and child. And what I do remember is that this mother had abandoned her baby, and then the child had grown up to become an adult and was doing well, and she was seeking to get back in the life of the child. And you know the theater is quiet except for the film. You're not hearing voices and so on so much when once the movie is going on. And all of a sudden, the atmosphere was just filled with this woman screaming, I hate her, I hate her, I'm gonna kill my mother, I'm gonna kill my mother. And she was crying and really wrenching. And her friends had to take her out of the theater. And
Wow.
when you know, when it all settled, basically the story she was telling is that her mother did her some hurt, and she's identifying with the victim in the movie, and it really caused her to act up. And
It triggered her.
oh my goodness, it was horrible. And you just felt that pain. And you know, seriously, if that woman met her mother there, then she'd probably harm her. So
Yes.
when we keep those negative feelings, that hurt, and I'm not at all saying diminishing hurt by any means,
Right.
because I can tell you stories about I have endured hurt. But if we keep it in there and we don't forgive the person and release it and restore ourselves, even if you don't have a relationship with that person any longer, and
Yes.
if you cleanse yourself of this hurt by forgiving the person, so you're letting it go, then you'll be able to live a more normal life. But it can be
Yes.
really negative and debilitating if you don't.
And Karen, that is so true. A few months ago, I decided I wanted to get back into therapy for a tune up because it had been a while.
Okay.
And I didn't realize that there was still some issues with my dad that were like bothering me. And I thought I'd really like forgiven the past hurts and everything. But what I'd done was really just pushed it to the back of my mind. And, he's deceased.
Right.
He can't apologize to me.
Anymore.
There's nothing that he can do. So I had to make a choice. Like, will I remain stuck or do I really want to fully heal?
Right.
And, I had to have some empathy for him because, you think of our parents' generation, what did they know about going to therapy? You
Right.
know,
Exactly.
you know, and
Exactly.
it's like it was just a different world and a different time. So I just had to see the situation for what it was and acknowledge how hurt I felt. I had to acknowledge that I was feeling hurt. But once I really could acknowledge it, which I thought I'd done in the past, but no, she
Yes.
really helped me to go there in the session.
Bring it out.
And
Right.
I was able to feel free of all of that. But
Yes.
what I was doing was internalizing my pain. And in my mind, it's like I wanted to rewrite the past, wanted to change the script, wanted that happy ending, which no, it's not
Yes.
there, not with him. He has deceased.
He's gone.
But
Right.
what I could do was just simply, you know what, it happened. I don't think it was necessarily out of malice. It was just he did the best with the tools that he had.
Right.
And, you know, I will say this much. I don't think how he went about things was the right way. But at the end of the day, maybe there are other fathers or other parents out there that can learn from that. But when we don't forgive and we hold on to whatever it is that offended us, we remain stagnant and
Absolutely.
you just can't move forward. And,
Absolutely.
it does hurt other relationships.
Yes.
It
Yes.
really does, because
God.
people who are well intentioned, you can take out your anger towards them without even
Yes.
realizing it.
Exactly.
Just like the experience of the lady in the movie theater, watching that movie triggered her.
Oh
And
my
there are
God.
so many things when we don't deal with the things that we've internalized.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, there are so many ways that we can be triggered. So I think
Yeah.
it's so important,
It's
Karen.
explosive at some point in time. It becomes explosive. And I am going to confess at this point, Bree, that
Yes.
I still have one particular thing that happened. I'll talk about it later.
Yes.
It happened to me that I'm yet to really forgive the person and to really get that out of my system. Maybe this is the day to do it.
Yes.
We'll talk about it a bit later on.
Yes. It's not, it's not easy, and I tell you, it's like I do a lot of reading, and there are several books, and I did mention some of them to you, that
Yes.
it's like God has really put this theme of forgiveness on my heart.
Yes.
And
I
he
think so.
really has. And
God moves in a mysterious way, my dear.
it's the truth. And
Yeah.
Karen, where I am in my life right now, to be honest with you, I just want healing. I want to have peace in my life. I don't feel the need for any conflict. I mean, if you want to argue and fight, then I'm not the person that you want in your life, because it's like, it's not worth it to me anymore.
It's not. I
And,
agree.
I don't think I have anything to prove to anyone. If
Right.
I've offended anyone, I don't have a problem with apologizing. But, it's like, when you are apologizing and it's still not accepted, that tug of war, it's like, I just can't go there anymore, because, mentally, a person can only take but so much. But I
Indeed.
think what we need to realize is, knowing each other's story, maybe we can have a better understanding in resolving whatever conflict there is,
Yes. Yes.
right? But
Yes.
there's a way to go about it.
Yes. And it's not necessarily, pardon me, getting angry. Anger isn't going to solve anything. But truly, I believe ultimately forgiveness is hard. It's
It is.
one of the hardest things humans have to do, but we have to trust God to give us the power to forgive. And I think this is why He has set us up. Say, if you don't forgive, then I won't forgive you either. And goodness me, the Bible says we have all sinned and come short of the glory of God. So none of us are innocent here. So we all have that same road to travel. And so
And that's the
I
truth.
believe that with God we can do it, but on our own it's going to be much tougher.
I definitely agree. So, my next question is, what can we do to release the past and people who have let us down?
What can we do? Isn't that the number one question? I wonder what our viewers have to say about that.
Right?
What can we do to release the past? I was discussing this with Patrick earlier, before we came on, and his solution was simply pray, pray, pray. Give it to the Lord and allow the Holy Spirit to guide you. That is the first step. That's not the only thing we can do, but it's
Right.
the first step that we can do. And because I just mentioned it is such a difficult thing for humans to do, then
Yes.
it's necessary for us to pray, pray, pray. And we are Christians and we believe that God has the power to forgive us, and He has a power to give us the heart to forgive others. And so that,
Yes.
I believe, is the first and most important step. And then release it. Let Allow yourself just where you are now, Brie, to let it go.
Yes.
You have nothing to prove. We don't depend on people. So we're gonna beg. So you're gonna forgive and you're gonna apologize. And if they don't accept it, we can still walk away because we have done what is required of us, I think.
Exactly. Exactly.
Set yourself free to live your life and to give yourself that inner peace that we all need if we're going to survive this world. Now, there are so many other things that we have to deal with in this world. You don't need to carry any bitterness and pain. You need to just release it and let it go. And that's easiest done through forgiveness, both ways, whether you have wronged someone or whether someone has wronged you. Equally,
Yes.
you can forgive and move on.
Yes, and it's a choice at the end of the day. It's a
Yes.
choice that we have to make, and I think we have to decide on, like I talked about healing earlier. How badly do you want to heal? How
Um,
badly do you want to have peace in your life? Because anyone can hold on to hatred and bitterness and conflict within their hearts. But I think it takes a person of strength to really go there and to decide, you know what, I'm tired of this. And I think we're setting a poor example for our children, for our families, when
yes.
they see us holding on to conflict, because we that's that cycle will not be broken. It will continue on. Andrew saying sometimes we keep rehearsing negative narratives, and that is
Yes.
true. That
Yes.
is true. And it's like, when will we learn to just let it go?
And especially when we are parents or teachers or someone in authority, and we carry a grudge for someone, and it in many ways it dictates how we treat other people who are completely
True.
innocent. And when everyone, you look like a miserable person, a witch, all these various names, other b names that they might want to call you, because the truth is that you are angry and you want to expend this anger on everyone else. And
Yes.
and as Andrew said, we keep rehearsing the negatives. And it just becomes a problem, just not only for you, but for all of the relationships that you have with other people in different spheres of your life.
So true. So true. Why are apologies so important?
Oh. That's a really good question. Why we spoke about this
We
before.
spoke about it the last
Why
time. Yes.
are apologies so important? The truth is that apologies are important because we want to maintain good relationships. And when I don't think that everybody just wants to hurt somebody. I know you have some people who will say things to you just to really burn you. But most of us are not like that. And you may make a mistake and you have done something and you've caused someone to feel hurt or pain or grief or whatever it may be. But it takes a big man, a woman, to apologize, to say, to be not just to say you're sorry, but to be genuinely regretful of the hurt you might cause and to feel remorse for it and to be willing to do whatever it takes to rebuild that relationship.
Do you think that the person who really wants the apology is seeking some sort of validation? Like, you know, do I matter enough for you to apologize? Or if you don't apologize, and that tells me I meant nothing.
You know, in many cases that is the case, and that's hardest when the person who hurts you is somebody that you care about. Um, the writer of that book that we were reading this week says it takes love to apologize, because
Yes.
if you don't care enough for the other person who is hurting, then you won't feel the necessity of apologizing. So it's really, it comes back down to love, and we don't begin to understand love. Again, we have to look at Christ and the life of Jesus to really understand what it means to love and what it really means to forgive. On the cross, when they were nailing him with his hands stretched out, he said, Father, forgive them because they don't know what they're doing.
Amen.
Father, forgive them. And if we can even try to emulate that spirit of Christ, to forgive, even sometimes it's a nail in your hand and you're gonna bleed, your heart, you're gonna hurt. To forgive and move away from the hurt and the pain, and try, if you can, to restore those relationships. It's going to take time, it's going to take work, but we can do it. And it's better. It's better for your mental health, for your state of mind, for your relationships, to be able to do that, and to move on with your life, and to have that calm and peace that you need to continue on, to have your daily peace, and to have joy in your life.
What would you say for the person who really needs the apology? Would you say that, I think at some point we have to have enough love for ourselves to be able to move on with or
Absolutely.
without the apology, you
All
know?
right. Well, now is the point which I think I can share. This is very deep and painful, and I'm gonna put it out there because it's going in the book. In my early 20s, I fell in love with this man. It was my really my first love. Maybe I was not his first love, if I was his love at all, but he was my first love. And we went on for years. As this was early in my life, he wasn't even talking marriage yet or
Yeah.
anything. Anyway, after some years went by, things changed, and we went our separate ways. But he met someone else that he was not very interested in, and she was pushing it. And so he, apparently she knew about our relationship. So he told the woman that he can't deal with her because he's coming back to have a relationship with me. Of course, nothing went like that. But I suppose that was his way to push her
Hmm.
off. So anyway, she started to call my job and tell my personnel manager all kinds of nonsense and lies, until it became a problem. And he called me up and said, Miss Holgate, such and such, somebody has called and said this and that and that and that, and say all kind of negative things. Tell the personnel people that, oh, I am sleeping with her husband,
Wow.
right? And of course, that could put the company in disrepute in some way. And I said, oh my God, why would this woman be doing this? So I called him and I said, listen, this has happened and I need it to stop. So you need to deal with it. It's your situation, it's your relationship. I'm not involved in it. Deal with it. And I thought it was finished. But then he came to my job on Friday evening after work time. I didn't drive yet. So he said, okay, I can drop you to where you need to go to get the bus. And she was with him. So I said, what's going on? Oh, I just need us to sit somewhere quietly where we can talk, because obviously she's having a problem with you and she thinks that um, she can do what? Push you out or whatever. And I thought it was weird, but my foolish self went, because this is somebody that I knew long ago and I trusted him. So I went.
Yes.
And Bree, I almost lost my life that day,
Oh, wow.
because he drove the car to this remote place on a beach, and that woman took a rock as big as I don't know, and she hit me. She almost killed me. She beat me in my head, and then left me on the beach bloodied, and I passed out.
Oh,
And
my goodness.
I'm telling you, a truck driver was passing and he saw me struggling to get out, and he stopped and he carried me to the police station. And I asked him, can you take me to the hospital? He said, no, because I don't know what this is about. And I didn't even want to say anything. So he took me to the police station and the police took me to the hospital. Fortunately for me, the doctor that saw me at the hospital knew me, and he called my mom, and that is how my family got to find out what had happened. Trust me. Now, how do I deal with that? For years, all I thought was I want to kill them.
Yeah.
Him in particular, I wish he was dead. And he died,
Wow.
but nothing came of it because apparently they bought out the case and the police couldn't find the report and all kinds of madness. And I don't know that I've yet gone past that, to be quite
That's a
honest
tough,
with
that
you.
Karen,
And
that's a
I
tough one.
don't think I've gone past that one. And her sister and her brother and I were colleagues in college. And the sister still tries to build a relationship with me, but I just cannot. I can't. Because every time I see her, I think, your sister almost killed me. And I
Yeah,
didn't even do her anything.
yeah,
And that's something that it daily, whenever it comes up, whenever I see her, because I do see her, is a popular person, so she's on television and blah,
yeah.
blah, and I would look at her and all the
The
negative
memories come back.
mind and everything negative comes into my head. And sometimes I say, God, how do you allow this woman to continue to live after what she did? And so I know I'm not released of that yet. So maybe I need some
You know,
therapy.
you're making me think because I recommended a
Yeah.
book to you. This is the book.
Yeah.
This is a book called The Sunflower by Simon Wiesenthal. And
Mhm.
this book is so good. I mean, he goes really deep into forgiveness. And it's a situation, I won't spoil it for anyone who decides to read. But,
Mhm.
you know, he was asked by a dying German soldier to forgive him. You know, he wanted a Jew to forgive him because
Okay.
he knows all the things that he had done. And
Mhm.
it's just the conflict that it put in within this man because it's like, how can I forgive
And it-
someone who would have like he wanted to wipe out my whole race. So
Right.
you know, this
Yeah, it's something else.
it's not so cut and dry. It's not so
No,
so for
not
what
at
you have
all.
experienced. You know, I am at the point where because it's easier said than done. You know, like to forgive and really forgive. Like I said earlier, I thought I had really forgiven my father. But then
Mhm.
I realized up until last week I was still holding on to some hurts. And
Mhm.
you know, I had to really make up my mind to let it go. But there are some situations where I
It's
say
hard.
I've forgiven, but it's like these are
Mm.
people I would never talk to again.
Ever.
You understand? It's like it's not easy.
And not only would I not, up to this point, I feel like I could never speak to that person ever again. I've seen her in trouble because, as I said, she's a very public person,
Hmm.
and her child in trouble. And I never felt any sympathy. And
Right.
that's,
No, I get it.
I'm cold, right? Oh, but I still have not. And Pastor going to hear this one, and we're going to have to talk about it.
But
I have not forgiven her. I have not.
you
And
know,
that's the truth.
that's Karen, that's a tough one. That's honestly a tough one because there are some things that have really been very hurtful in my life. Some
Mm.
things are easier to forgive than
I
others.
know, indeed,
You
quite.
know, it's not cut and dry like, oh, forgive, forgive, forgive.
No.
But it's like I'm at the place now where I'm learning to acknowledge that I was wronged.
Hmm.
You know, I can acknowledge that I was wronged, but knowing in my heart, I have to learn to let it go for my own mental well-being
Yes.
and
Well,
not and try not to have any malice. You know,
mhm.
because like I think back to, and I've shared it before, like when I was going through my divorce, the hatred I had for my ex-husband, I just wanted something bad to happen to him, and I just wanted to be there to witness it. I got so caught
I,
up.
I understand
You
because I
understand? Yeah.
but I think that is how I've been feeling. I can't, and it's been many years now.
Yes.
I've been married to Patrick for almost 40 years now.
Wow.
So it's been a long time.
Long time.
And to think that it's still, I don't think I have the nightmares anymore, but it's whenever, especially if I see her or her relatives, it still comes back in my chest. And I still think, you know, I need to get my enact some kind of revenge for this. It was not right. And I just have to ask the Lord to take that thought and that
Well,
spirit.
see, now you're going, because I was about to ask you, does revenge take away the pain?
It does not. Um, Revenge is a terrible thing. Bree,
I agree.
revenge is equally violent to anything that anybody could ever do to you. So that the truth is that I cannot understand how it can assuage you. Revenge, revenge cannot assuage you for any wrong because basically you'd be doing the same thing. In
And you're
revenge,
not going to feel any better, to be
yes,
honest.
I don't know
If
if
you do, it's a
anyone,
temporary feeling, I think.
right, but I don't think anyone could seriously enact revenge and then feel justified in doing it. Maybe for a moment, I've heard like people whose children have been killed and the victim hung or some capital punishment have said it has given them closure to see that person die. I feel vindicated. I feel now that I can get closure. Justice has been served. But the truth is, it's a life for a life. And although in the early years God did say to Moses, a life for a life, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. But Jesus did not agree with that.
Right.
Christ said, no, that's not the way. So I don't, and I still, even though, as I said, the human side of me feels vengeful, like I don't feel satisfied that what has been done has been enough. But that's the human side of me. But when I look at the whole picture, it's not going to change anything. And
And
I
I
would,
appreciate your honesty, Karen. I appreciate your honesty because I think so many of us as Christians, we like to say the right thing to make ourselves look good. I think when we're being honest, I think when we're truly being honest, because there are other people just like you, Karen. I've been there too, like that hurt. And it's not so easy. It's not so easy just to say, "Oh, I forgive you," and walk away.
nope, nope. And often when I give a testimony in church, I will speak about this particular thing because I don't think there's anything else in my life that I've not been able to quash and let it go. I remember when I was in high school, I won't call her name, but this girl messed with me and we had a big fight in the home ec room.
I can't picture you fighting
And
in high school.
but um that was just me being irritable. It was not any major
Yeah,
thing. And I apologized to her and I can see her today and give her a hug and I don't feel anyway. And I don't think she has aught against me
right.
either because we quashed that. But this
That's a
still hard.
that's a tough one.
Still
That's
very hard.
definitely a tough one. Like there are several things that, and I told myself what I need to do is write them down. Write them down, pray for each situation,
Yes.
and
It
just
requires
make
more
a
than
journal.
just the normal way of interacting with that. It requires a lot more.
Yes,
That's why I
yes,
said I
because
like
some
the
things are
pray,
hard.
pray, pray. It is hard.
Yes,
Very, very hard. Yeah.
yes, it is. So this leads right into my next question. Let's talk about how easy it is to become a prisoner to past hurts. Now,
All
this
right.
has stayed with you for years,
Yeah,
just
many,
like,
many years.
yeah, it's not so easy to let go. So for the person out there who's struggling to let go, they become a prisoner to the past hurts and to people. What would you say to that individual?
Wow. What can I say to that individual? Well, the truth is, we have to, for me, once I don't think I've forgiven, I have not. developed any hate
Yes,
for
good.
this person. I don't feel a need anymore. For years, I felt like I want to enact some kind of revenge so that I could somehow assuage my pain. I don't feel like that anymore. But I cannot, maybe it is that I just cannot forget it. And it's not
That,
so much.
but that was
It's not,
traumatic. That was a traumatic
yeah.
experience
Yes,
because I can only imagine it's a remote area. You're thinking that maybe you're
I'm
about to
going to
die.
die.
That had to be
Exactly.
traumatic.
Exactly. So it's not easy to say to someone, if you have been terribly hurt, just forget it or just apologize and move on. But maybe in these cases is when we need to seek professional help,
Yes.
counseling, to have somebody to help you to navigate through all of it and to collect your thoughts and feelings so that it doesn't hurt so much anymore. But I honestly feel that counseling for me, for this particular thing, until I get some counseling and really thrash it out, I'll never get over this one.
I think it's time, Karen. I think it's time because I can tell you that when you seek professional help, it makes a difference because this is a person who is trained to lead you to, to help you, navigate through these situations. And I think because it's one thing to talk to a friend, talk to your
Right,
mom, whoever it
right,
is. But
yes,
I think some things you need professional help. And that's one of the things about therapy that has really appealed to me
yes,
because I have received terrible advice from people. I've received advice from people that I would never take it because it's bad advice. But
right,
I think when you go to a professional, they're trained to help you to deal with certain situations. And like what you went through, that definitely is something that you need a therapist for. Andrew's saying, give yourself
so
that
that
gift. And you
yes,
need to, yes, yes. And
I
I agree
believe
with that,
I'm at that
Andrew.
place now where that's the only thing that is going to allow me to cough it up and get it out of my system completely.
It
So
will help. It
so
will
I
help.
don't hurt about it anymore. Because whilst I don't feel that vengeance anymore, it still hurts. The thought
Yes.
of it, all the good memories of that relationship have been spoiled. And there were many. There were many
Yes.
friends, many wonderful things, but that spoiled it all.
That's a betrayal, though. That's a
It's such
betrayal
a huge
because you
betrayal.
were
It
set
is.
up, and then, I mean,
Yeah.
and see, that's another thing, Karen, that I think a lot of us bad relationships, holding on to relationships that we should have let go of.
Uh,
And we're seeking validation. We
mhm.
think if we keep this person, I won. I won first prize at the county fair. At the end of the day, when that really was not a prize,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know, we're
Yeah.
holding on to situations, and it's like we can be shown over and over and over, but because of insecurity and
Hmm.
not feeling so great about ourselves, or we feel that we love this individual so much, I think we need to give
Right.
some of that love to ourselves.
Ourselves, indeed. Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the thing is that sometimes people will say you are narcissistic if you love yourself.
And you know what? I have come to see
And
that is not
I
true.
would want to give
Yes.
that a kind of a fat punch because
Yeah.
you have to take care of you first.
You have to love because you know what, Karen, I wish that I had the thinking that I have now when I was a younger woman,
We
because
made like yeah,
I would have made much better
better
choices.
decisions indeed.
Yes, I would have
Yes.
walked away from relationships. I wouldn't have tried to prove to anyone or to myself that I can hold on to this individual. I would have walked
Yes.
away with my dignity and self respect
Yes.
intact instead of holding on because this is the thing. If a person is in love with you, they're not going to treat you badly. They will treat
Nope.
you with love and respect. And
Exactly.
if they're not going to do it, then I feel that you need to do it for yourself. you
Yes.
know? And I think a lot of us don't take the time to really invest in ourselves to get to that point.
So there's this anecdote that says, love yourself, and you'll be so surprised to find that someone else loves you. So you
Yes.
have to take care of you first. And it's hard for us. I don't know if it is a race thing or it is from our history, but it is hard for us as women, especially, to really have that self love without becoming selfish.
It's true, you know, it's I think we repeat patterns of what we have seen for the most part and
Yes.
what we have been told by society, because I remember that saying when I was grown, a piece of a man is better than no man at all. What kind of nonsense is that? You know,
Lie,
what kind of nonsense is that?
lie.
You know, what kind
Yes,
of
and then
nonsense
you
is that?
believe you're not complete without one.
So you figure, oh, well, let me share. You know, it's better to share. No, because
No,
the
it doesn't make
indignity of
sense.
knowing that when this person is not with you, you know that they're elsewhere. What does
Yeah,
that do to you mentally? You
exactly.
know, so these are the things that we need to really think about. I mean, we should be talking to our children about stuff like this, preparing them, because at the end of the day, our sons, I mean, women cheat too, but it's like letting both of them know it's not cool to really hurt people, because what I have found, Karen, you talked about people who hurt people, but it's not intentionally. Well, I've encountered people that I believe that they get a kick out of hurting other
Oh,
people.
there are those two, baby girl, don't.
Yeah, those narcissists, I mean, they're
Yes.
demons. It's like they get a kick out of hurting people.
Mhm.
And, you know, I'm at the place now where my circle is so much smaller. I've said this so many times.
Yeah.
And people, I put them in two categories now: safe and unsafe, you
Right.
know? And if you don't feel
Yeah.
safe, trust me, I'm not calling you. We're not hanging
Nope.
out.
Nope.
I'm
Nope.
not dealing with you.
Yeah.
Hey, hi, how are you? And I'll keep going.
Keep
But
moving.
I don't have time to invest in that kind of nonsense anymore. When I was younger, you
Yeah.
know, you feel you want to be a part of the in crowd, or you feel that you want to be a part of this or a part of that or in this relationship, but it's
Popular girl.
tearing you down mentally, you know, and nah, it's not worth it. We need to have enough love for ourselves.
Yep. That's correct.
Yep. And I think it makes a difference, you know, how we feel about ourselves.
Yes, because as we said, if we start to care for me, then other people will see that care and they will not so easily try to break into that space. I tell you,
Exactly.
unless you are sincere and you mean me well, then you can stay out of my circle.
Exactly. You know, when I heard the term like breadcrumbing and I understood, you know, I'm like, you know what? When a person sees you're willing to accept breadcrumbs, that's what they're always
They're
going to
gonna
give
treat
you.
you
You
like
know,
a dog.
take your breadcrumbs and be grateful. You know,
Yeah,
and it's like you have to get to that point where no, 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 I deserve
not
so much more.
acceptable. I want a seat at the king's table. I want no bread.
Right? Amen. I definitely agree. So I have to ask you, Karen, what does true forgiveness look
Look
like?
like. Okay, I've been thinking about that, and I take a deep breath when I say, what is true forgiveness?
Yes.
True forgiveness, in my mind, is reconciliation, restoration, and
Yes.
rebuilding. And I'm going to add that true forgiveness does not happen with the first apology or the first step in the process. That's just the reconciliatory process.
Yes.
So, Bree, I am sorry for what I did to you. Step one. Step two, hello, Bree. How are you today? Can we have lunch together? Have a simple light conversation or whatever the process is. But it's like rebuild. I'm thinking about these people in this last hurricane, rebuilding a house. You're going to start somewhere. So those guys whose roof blew off, they're gonna have to go out and they're gonna shop for zinc and wood and what have you. They're gonna have to find a workman. And then when the roof goes off, it's not just the roof, the electricity is gone as well. The wiring has to be redone. So it's a process. So we're gonna take it step by step, little by little, until we restore a particular relationship. I'm not gonna say forgiving somebody mean you're gonna pull everybody else into all
Right.
the back into your inner circle, but we're gonna at least establish cordiality to show that love and forgiveness one human being to another. If it's somebody that you're close to, that you love, that you want in your life, then you're gonna have to work harder. You're gonna have to put more out and expect reciprocation, because if you forgive and you're trying to restore, you must get some reciprocation. Otherwise, there comes a point where you're going to stop, because you're not going to become a victim again because
Yes.
you're trying to get forgiveness. You offer your apology, and if the person accepts it, then you can rebuild and you get to the point where you want that relationship to be, or mutually you want that relationship to be established. But it's not a easy process, it's not a quick process,
No.
but it requires sincerity. And as Honey said, pray, 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 and allow the Spirit of God to dwell in you and work with that. Allow the God to lead you in the direction He wants you to go. And
Yes.
if you can help that person to change, then so do. But don't let it be your burden. Give the
I
love,
agree.
give the apology, but don't carry it on your back and be guilt and feel guilty about what happened. Open up, give what you must give, and then move on.
Yes. But I was, you know what I'd like to address to Karen? Those insincere apologies. You know, you have these people like, you know, someone you broke up with and they need someone to be in bed with for the night. They call with that insincere
Uh,
apology. You know, some of these it's like a spider's web. It's like trying to trap you and pull you back in. And I think we have to be very wise. You know, we have to have some discernment in knowing when an apology is sincere,
sincere,
or if
absolutely.
it's that ex, I accept your apology, but you know what? No thanks. I don't think we need to hang out. I mean, what would you
Right.
say to that?
Exactly. So I accept your apology. I can say hello and good morning, but we're not going to bed.
Exactly.
Okay? It's not going to
Because
happen.
the thing is, it happens so often. It's like you have you're back with that person, and then they ghost you all over again.
Wow.
It's it's
Yeah.
just that you're back to square one, having
And
to start the healing process all over again.
And this is where that self love is so important,
Yes.
because you're not going to allow anyone to drag you down. Or
Yes.
because you feel guilty about something that happened, you're going to allow that to pull you back into that spider's web. We have
Right.
to be wise, we have to be discerning, and we
Yes.
have to take care of number one first, I believe.
Yes.
But
Definitely.
yes, if the forgiveness is sincere, we can rebuild relationships with an understanding that it may never be the same as it used to be,
I agree.
but we can still be friends.
Yes. I definitely agree on that one. Is there hope to move on without forgiving?
For whom? Okay, so look at it this way. If somebody has hurt me, often they forget. They they hurt you. They probably recognize that they do, but they forget. And
Yes.
the relationship is not that important to them. So
Yes.
continuing with their lives, and they're happily going along, married to their nice boyfriend, going to live a foreign, and they're quite happy. And they don't remember the hurt that they left behind.
Yes.
Now, for me, on the other hand, the person who's been hurt, If you carry that, it's going to harm your psyche. We spoke about that earlier.
Yes.
So the person who has been wronged, needs to deliberately decide that they're going to get along without that apology. It's
Yes.
not let it stain them, not let it cause them to be vengeful or in any negative emotion. Just put it aside. It's life. People are this way. It happened. Moving right along,
Definitely.
and find
Definitely.
my own healing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I definitely agree with that. And I think it goes back to that word validation. You know, we have to stop seeking validation through other people, have enough self-esteem, have
Yes.
enough self-esteem to know that, okay, because I wasn't chosen or you went elsewhere, doesn't mean that I'm not attractive, doesn't mean I'm not gifted, doesn't mean,
Right.
at the end of the day, it has nothing to do with me. We have to get to that point.
Right. In
How
other
can we
words, my life is worth more than what you brought.
exactly, exactly, because, and I believe I said it on our last episode together, where rejection is a very painful thing. But I think when it becomes really bad is when we choose to reject ourselves
Right.
because of the rejection of others. I
Right.
think that's when we really have to dig deep. I've had an ongoing situation, and I was feeling a little frustrated about it yesterday. And I just decided, you know what? I just felt like God was saying, "Come and sit down and pray and talk to me about it." And I tell you what, that was the best thing I could have done. Because the next thing I know, I picked up the books I usually do in the evenings, for my devotion. And I remember I was just crying because everything I read was speaking to the situation. And
That's
it
the
just brought healing to my heart. And I
yes.
was able to watch a movie and relax before going to bed. So I said to myself, if that's not a lesson, I don't know what is.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it's like I could have just held on to the bad feelings. I could have
And
just,
just make yourself miserable and set
yeah,
your blood pressure.
yeah. But it's like God gave me peace. And it's like,
Lord.
yeah, there are relationships sometimes that we would like to have, but I'm at a place now where my relationships can't be one sided anymore. I
No.
don't care who it's with. It's like, it's not a relation. It's just like God doesn't force himself on us,
Right.
So it's like, who are we to force ourselves on other people?
Exactly.
So, yeah, if you show me you don't want to be bothered, hey, no problem. It can be
Tomorrow.
painful, but I've learned we can heal and move
Yes, sir.
on at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And when we are like that, often people say that we're tough or we're hard, but sometimes we have to be tough. In
Yes.
order to, Andrew said, not be
Don't
defined.
be defined by your past hurt. Yup.
Perfectly said, my brother. So you don't hold on to things and you don't allow people to treat you, victimize you.
Yes.
Move right along. And I strongly believe that our Christian values are what is going to take us through all of this, because
Yes.
we just ask the Holy Spirit to guide us in how we think, how we feel. Talk to Him. He's a friend that sits closer than a brother. And guess what? He's not going to hurt us.
I agree. I
He's not going
definitely
to hurt
agree.
us. So he's my best friend, and I can talk to him, and he will listen and he will answer me. And I have been praying for the Holy Spirit to allow me to hear his voice. So
Yes.
you can literally hear that
It's
small
true.
voice, and it's so quieting and so nice and blessing that
Makes
we
a difference.
we
It
don't
gives you
need
that
a friend.
peace.
That
And I just got to that place where, you know what? If God should tell me that he wants nothing to do with me, then I should be concerned. And I know he would never say that to me, right? So
exactly.
it's
He
like
said there's
learning
rejection
what
and
I should
it is
prioritize. Yes, that's the relationship I hold near and dear because
yes.
that's the relationship that sustains me. God never makes me grovel and beg, and He doesn't mistreat me and abuse me.
Oh,
So it's helped me in so many ways for that healing. So it's like the more healing I feel, it's easier to let go of the past hurts. Like Andrew is saying, don't be defined by your past hurts. And it's like it's getting a little easier. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's like the more I try not to do it in my own strength, I noticed that it helps
yes,
tremendously. But
yes,
for those out there who are having this struggle, I tell you, I have to suggest to you that therapy is the way to go. There are pastors who
yes,
are trained for
yes,
counseling,
yes.
So if you don't want to go to a therapist, you can go talk to your
Speak to
pastor,
your
but
pastor.
talk to someone who knows how to guide you through the process.
Yes.
Right? That
Yeah.
is so important. So Karen, I have to ask you this. How can we make peace with not receiving the apology that was desired?
Well, first of all, we can't blame ourselves because it is really that other individual who is failing if they're not apologizing for something that they know that they have wronged you with.
Yes.
And because I don't blame me for their actions, and it's easier for me to make peace with it. I said it's finished, it's over, it's done. One thing I know though, somebody like that, I could never have a relationship with again. I don't want them in my sphere. I don't want
I
them in my
agree.
circles. And I'm not malicious, but in order to protect my own peace of mind and to
Yes.
prevent anything future thing of similar sort from happening, I just walk away.
Yes. I totally agree with you on that one. How important is vulnerability?
We've touched on vulnerability a lot. I remember, I think was one of the homeless girls said that,
Yes.
that you have to tough it out. You can't be vulnerable. But there are going to be occasions, especially I mentioned that apologies and love walk hand in hand. And I believe that when you love genuine, and I'm not even speaking about necessarily a romantic love, but genuine, sincere love for a friend, for your family, for your children, for your spouse.
Yes.
It's a different space that you get to, I think. And to some degree, you can allow yourself to be vulnerable, but I also believe that you have to be able to trust that person.
You have to be careful because it is important. I think,
Yes.
Karen, vulnerability was something that I used to shy away from, especially after being hurt and you're building up those walls, and
Yeah.
each day you add 100 more bricks, and it's like you can become cold and
Yeah.
distant and
Yeah.
push people away. But like what you're saying, it's like with the right people, I think vulnerability is okay. I've had to learn that. With
Yeah.
the right people, vulnerability is okay. And I think we do want to get back to that point where we can be vulnerable.
Mhm.
Because if we meet the right person or the right friend or whoever it is, for the relationship to flow and to be authentic, I think that vulnerability should play a role in that.
Yes. But as I said, I have to be able to trust that individual.
Trust, like
To
we said,
trust them
safe and unsafe. Safe
safe.
people. Safe.
Yes, yes. So if it's a safe person, it's a safe relationship, I will gently allow myself to be vulnerable.
Yes.
I'm not going to just open up,
Right.
but gradually, as you learn and trust grows and love
Yeah,
grows,
because we learn after you've been burnt a few times, you
uh-uh,
learn.
not
You
easily,
learn.
not easily, but yes. And I think I really only want to be vulnerable to Christ Jesus.
Yes.
Play because I know I can tell him whatever I need.
I mean, that is the relationship that should always take priority, I think, and I think that will make such a difference. Andrew said we cannot allow past pain and hurt to prevent us from loving and being lovable. And I agree with you, Andrew. I struggled with that for a long time. I remember saying, "Oh, I'll never love people again. I'll never trust people again." But and I remember someone saying to me, "If you have the love of Christ in you, how can you say that?"
Can
You
you?
know, and that made perfect sense. But I've learned, Karen, like what you were saying.
We
I
have to be safe.
very, very careful.
It has
I
to
have
be
to have
safe.
safe
And
people in because I tell you, there's some wicked people out there,
there
and
are.
I learned that the hard way. And I tell you what, it we have to be smart about the people that we have in our life.
Wise as an owl. Wise as an owl,
Definitely,
my dear. Yes.
definitely,
So
definitely.
once I agree that we can't allow our past pain to prevent us from being loving or being lovable. At the same time, we have to protect that space so that we are very careful who we
Yes,
let into that inner circle. So I'm not
and
saying
and that's
we
true.
won't be lovable again, but it can be wide open spaces. We have to protect ourselves. We have to be careful.
That's true because you have people who have not been in a relationship for a long time, and then they meet someone and they're so quick to just jump in and give their heart and soul. I mean, we have to be careful. We have to guard our hearts.
And do you realize that often they end up in a similar circumstance?
Right.
It's
Until we learn the lesson.
vulnerability that can be very unsafe for you because you end up trusting somebody too fast,
Yes.
and it turns out to be a similar character to the one that you just got into trouble with. So yeah,
Yes. And you're saying true also, yeah. So I think we just have to use wisdom, and
be
and
wise,
if
wise as
we
a know.
ask the Lord for it, He'll give it to us. So I do think
Oh
we
yes, he
yeah,
says, if you
we
lack
have to be
wisdom,
careful.
ask for it, and he
Yes,
says you have to be wise as an owl.
definitely. I agree
So
with you on that one.
yes.
What are
So
the? Mhm. I'm sorry, Karen. Go ahead.
oh, I was just saying that our lives is not simple. Life it's very complex. And,
Yes,
and remember, I started at the beginning. I said forgiveness is probably one of the most difficult things that you
it
can have.
is.
One human being to another, but only through trusting in God that can we really understand and learn what is true forgiveness and
I
how to
tell, and
give
that
it
is
and how
that
to
is
receive
that
it.
is true. Now, I want to share a couple more books. I think I'd mentioned this one is from Daily Bread. I read that every day, along with my quarterly. But this one is "What to Do with a Broken Relationship" by James Pittman. You can find the PDF online if you type
Okay.
it in your search. And then so when I got this one, "What to Do with Broken Relationships," I was like, "Oh my goodness!" And then I got this one, "The Risk of Forgiveness." So it's like, God,
Good.
what are you trying to tell me?
Yeah,
You know,
there
and
is
it was,
risk. Yeah.
and that's when I found out about this book, "The Sunflower," which it's been a really good read. And then this showed up on my in my Amazon feed, "Forgiveness" by Gary Enrig. So it's like God has really been speaking to my heart
Yes,
about
oh yes,
forgiveness and broken
and leading
relationships.
you into the right way to look. Good. So we can share. You want to share the links online?
I would definitely do that. I would definitely do that. And I'm telling you, it's been life changing because I know there was a time where if you said certain things or did certain things to me, I'd be so ready to just argue with you. It
Mm.
would just be ugly. But I'm at a place now where I just don't feel the need to do that anymore. And the thing is, I know the love I have in my heart for people, but at the end of the day, I've come to realize I gotta have that love for myself. I have to have that love for myself. And it's like when I feel whole within me, then I think I'm in a much better place because
Yes.
peace is you can't put a price tag on
Oh,
peace.
not at all. Not at all. Not
You
at all.
can't put a price tag on peace. And it's like,
Absolutely.
how important is peace to you, at the end of the day? So I have to ask you, Karen, what are the steps that we can take towards healing?
All right. Well, we've said it again and again, Bree. The first thing, learn to forgive ourselves.
Yes.
Forgive ourselves, trust in God, pray always, pray often, and then we can forgive others. And in forgiving others, we don't give it all away. We allow persons in their own time to accept forgiveness, and so we can restore relationships. So
Yes.
that's and in all of it, I love what Paul says in Ephesians 4:32. He says, "Be ye kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as God, for Christ's sake, has forgiven you."
Yes. That is, I
I,
like them.
yes, I think that is how I would suggest, I would recommend, and speaking to myself when I say this, that we should take it step by step and not allow ourselves to be taken advantage of, and not to just become vulnerable just by trusting anyone, but to guard our vulnerability, but at the same time to open up when it is safe to open up, Andrew,
Yes.
so that we can build, continue to keep our relationships and to build relationships with love and kindness for those that we care about.
I definitely agree with you on that one, Karen. So I have to ask you, do you have any closing thoughts? I have to tell you that I appreciate you coming back to delve a little deeper into this topic. Um, this was an area where I have struggled, and I used to see forgiveness as a weakness, but
Mm.
it's not.
It's
It's
actually a
not.
strength, Brie,
Right.
and it's
I
it's
used to think
hard.
if
It's
I forgive
mental.
you,
It is.
but that was a warped way of thinking. But I felt like, you know what, if I forgive you, then what I'm saying to you, I'm telling you that it was okay for what you did. And that was just a crazy way of thinking, but it's like it took me a long time because of holding on to past hurts, being stuck in the past,
Yeah.
not being able to let go, seeking validation through others, feeling the need, you know, really misunderstanding what love was. Because at the end of the day, love is not going to put you in such a horrible position when
Exactly.
it's going to break your heart. So it's having an understanding of what love is, having an understanding of what peace is, and how much does it mean to you to maintain that in your life. So,
Yes.
what are your closing thoughts, Karen?
All right, my friends, it was a pleasure opening up to you this afternoon, and I hope nobody takes my story and shoots me with it on social media.
They better not. But I'm telling you, I appreciate that you shared that
But
because
the truth
that was
is
really deep.
that I understand that nobody invites pain and hurt on themselves, but things happen, and we, in order to continue to live our lives with a good mental attitude, to keep our sanity sometimes, and to have that love of Christ and the love that God intends for us to have one for each other, we have to learn, and we have to really take that hard step to be forgiving. And not that we're going to do it just for the sake of forgiving, but because we are Christians, and because this is what God asks us to do, that we should first be forgiven, and then He will forgive us, because we all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. So, as we go through our day this week, think about those persons whom you might need to rebuild a relationship with, or simply break down those barriers of hurt and pain that you might have caused, and do it. Pray
Yes.
for wisdom if that's what you need, but do it. And it will give you that inner peace and that joy that we all need if we're going to live happy lives. So I appreciate my friend Bree, and Our friend Andrew has stuck it out with us right through. Thank you, Andrew, for those hearts. And I hope that I'll be able to share on another program with my friend.
Definitely. I have you penciled in. I just have to confirm the dates with you.
Okay,
I have to say, Karen, what you shared will save someone else from when they have that gut instinct not to go. They'll think of what you shared. They will think of what you shared. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I'd like to thank those of you who have tuned in. If you're watching the replay, please feel free to post your questions and comments. And you know, let's remember it's important to forgive, but it's also important to love ourselves and not allow ourselves to be mistreated and abused.
agreed.
Thank you so much, Karen. I really enjoyed this.
I love being with you, my darling. Ask me anytime.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much because I've already sent you some topics that I would like you to do. So,
Okay, sure.
yeah, thank you so
And
much, Karen. And good night, everyone. God bless. And I'm wishing